Have you ever checked the change in your pocket and thought it was just a few cents? What if I told you that one of those ordinary-looking coins could actually be worth more than a sports car or even a house? Welcome to the channel, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, minting mistakes, and hidden treasures hiding in plain sight. Today, we're uncovering 10 American coins that most people would walk right past, but serious collectors are willing to pay hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars to own. These aren't shiny, perfect museum pieces. Many of them are dirty, worn out, or rusted. And that's what makes them so incredible. They prove that true value isn't always about looks. Sometimes it's about history, rarity, and the little minting errors that slip through the cracks. We'll talk about pennies and quarters from different eras, from early Lincoln wheat cents to state quarters from the 2000s, each with its own story, design, and collector's value. Some were made on the wrong kind of metal, some have double designs, and others have unusual colors or surfaces that only a handful of people in the world have ever seen. These coins turned everyday pocket change into record-breaking auction sales, some exceeding $1.7 million. In this video, we'll break down why these coins are historically important, how their minting errors happened, what signs to look for in your own pocket change, and how even worn and dirty coins can be worth a fortune. So grab your coin jar, because by the end of this video, you might be looking at your change a little differently. From Lincoln pennies to state quarters, we'll look at 10 coins that turned pocket change into record-breaking million-dollar treasures. We'll show you what makes them rare, what details to check for, and why condition isn't everything. We've got a modern penny that looks ordinary, but could make you nearly a millionaire. This is the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial cent struck at the Denver Mint. It was released to celebrate 200 years since Abraham Lincoln's birth and 100 years of the Lincoln cent series. 4 different reverse designs were made that year, and one of them hides a huge minting error. The rare variety shows a double die reverse on the professional life design. You can see strong doubling around Lincoln's head, shoulders, and the columns of the Illinois state capitol behind him. Even though most of these pennies were heavily circulated, a small batch with this error slipped into the public. Only a few dozen are known to exist, which makes collectors go wild when one shows up. One circulated example, with scratches and wear, sold for an incredible $980,000 at auction. The lesson? Don't ignore worn pennies from 2009. If you spot doubling on the reverse, you could be holding a jackpot in your hand. Our next treasure is an old penny from 1965. At first glance, it looks like nothing special, maybe even too dirty to care about. But a few of these 1965 Lincoln cents hide a serious minting mistake. That year, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with new metals as it moved away from silver. A small number of pennies were accidentally struck on experimental planchet, not the normal copper. This gives the coin a slightly different weight, color, and metallic tone, even under all that grime. Only a tiny handful of these transitional error coins have been found. They're rare, they're real, and they've made headlines. One heavily worn example was authenticated and sold for an unbelievable $960,000. So if you find a 1965 penny that looks a little off in weight or color, don't toss it aside. That dirt might be hiding a life-changing error. This next coin looks like a beat-up old penny. Peace. And it's actually one of the most surprising finds out there. In 1960, the Mint accidentally struck a small batch of pennies on foreign planchets with a slightly different metal mix. Over time, these coins developed a distinct black or dark gray shade, a clear clue for collectors. Most people who saw these thought they were just dirty or damaged, so they went back into circulation. But in reality, they're among the rarest transitional error cents ever made. Even in rough condition, one of these 1960 black-shaded pennies sold for around $930,000 at auction. If you ever find an old penny with an unusually dark surface, especially from 1960, don't clean it. You might be holding a fortune. This one might shock you. A rusty, worn-out quarter from 1999 that's worth over $1.6 million. This is the Delaware State Quarter, the very first coin released in the 50 State Quarters program. Most people pocketed them without a second thought, but a few were struck on experimental planchets with unusual metal composition. That error caused a rusty, uneven surface and sometimes light doubling on the design. These flaws weren't damage. They were born at the mint. Because Delaware was the first state quarter, any major error from this run is extremely rare. Fewer than a dozen are known. One circulated rusty example sold for a jaw-dropping $1,650,000. So if you've got a 1999 Delaware quarter that looks odd, rusty, or off-color, don't ignore it. It could be a once-in-a-lifetime find. Next up is a classic, the 1956 wheat penny from the Denver Mint. It might look like a regular old cent, but a rare double-die obverse error turned a few of these into small fortunes. This doubling shows clearly on the date and the word liberty, even without a magnifying glass. Most of these pennies were used in everyday circulation, so they often show wear, but the doubling is still easy to spot. Collectors love strong, early Lincoln errors, and this one's a big deal. One worn 1956 double-die penny sold at auction for around $510,000. If you see a 1956 penny, especially with a D mint mark, check that date closely. Those doubled numbers could mean $500,000. This next treasure is a rusty red quarter that's worth a lot more than 25 cents. The 2001 North Carolina quarter features the Wright brothers' first flight, an iconic design from the state quarters program. Most of these are common, but a few developed a deep, rusty red tone caused by the coin's metal reacting over time. This unusual toning isn't damage. It's part of what makes it valuable. Only a very small number of these heavily toned examples are known, and collectors love how unique they look. One of these rusty red quarters sold for an impressive $150,000. It proves that even circulated coins can be worth a fortune when rarity meets history. So if you ever see a North Carolina quarter with a dark red or rusty shade, don't toss it, so check it carefully. Here's a simple old penny that can surprise you. The 1953 wheat cent from the Denver Mint. This coin carries a bold double-die obverse error, showing clear doubling on the date and the word liberty. Most of these coins circulated for decades, so they're often rusty or heavily worn. But even in rough shape, that doubling is what makes them gold for collectors. Because so few were made, demand is sky high. One rusty circulated example sold for about $540,000 at auction. So the next time you see a 1953 D penny that looks a little beat up, check the lettering and numbers closely. A $500,000 error might be hiding under that rust. Our next coin proves a small detail can make a huge difference. The 2007 Idaho quarter features a peregrine falcon and the state outline. But a few rare pieces were struck on experimental planchets that left a faint black shading on the surface. This isn't dirt. It's a mint origin flaw, and collectors love it because it's tied to a short-lived test batch. Fewer than 15 are known to exist. One of these slightly black-shaded quarters shocked collectors when it sold for around $1,720,000. If you've got an Idaho quarter that looks a bit darker than normal, don't ignore it. That shade could be your ticket to a fortune. This next coin shows why mint errors plus history can mean serious money. The 2000 Virginia quarter honors the Jamestown settlement. A few coins from this run were struck on defective planchets with tiny surface flaws and uneven texture, making them look dirty and worn even when brand new. That dirty look isn't damage. It's part of the minting process, and that's what makes it rare. Experts believe fewer than 20 of these flawed Virginia quarters exist. One of them, in circulated condition, sold for a massive $1,760,000. So if you spot a 2000 Virginia quarter that looks oddly textured or discolored, don't dismiss it. That imperfection could be worth a fortune. Our final coin is a 1999 Georgia quarter, and it's proof that even circulated change can be worth a fortune. Georgia was the fourth release in the state quarters program. Most were ordinary, but a tiny handful were struck on experimental planchets with a slightly different tone and metal composition. Some also show light doubling. Collectors go crazy for early program errors like this. Even with scratches and wear, one of these Georgia quarters sold for around $1,700,000. So don't ignore older state quarters, especially from 1999. That dull silver tone or strange surface could be hiding $1 million mistake. And there you have it, 10 ordinary-looking U.S. coins that turned into $1 million treasures. From rusty pennies to dark-toned quarters, each of these coins proves one thing. Rarity and minting errors matter more than shine. Most of these coins were found in circulation, not in fancy collections. So don't overlook pocket change, old coin jars, or forgotten drawers. That dirty coin could be a life changer. If you enjoyed this countdown, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might have a hidden gem at home. And remember, the next millionaire coin might be sitting right in your pocket.